Well, good morning, everybody. And as our first animation goes through here, you can see some of the precipitation that's moved out of parts of Texas and Oklahoma late last night, early this morning, clipping parts of Kansas, coming to Missouri, and starting to spread into Illinois. And it's going to continue to spread along this particular area throughout the day today, keeping it cooler and also bringing in some, of course, some more cloud cover. But the first of two large fronts that's going to be moving across the United States is actually gathering right here, coming through parts of Alberta and then Saskatchewan, and then now into parts of Montana. And that front's going to move very quickly across the United States. But I was just thinking a lot about the area through which this is going to be moving and the longer term statistics here. So take a look at this map. This would be January 1st this year through October the 10th, looking at precipitation anomalies. And it just stresses how the ongoing drought issues that we're seeing here in the central part of the United States, which have gotten worse this fall, kind of a long history to them, which we've been covering for quite some time. But just the map really just tells the story about how dry things are. And I don't want to skip over telling you that the Central Valley of California is still having its driest year on record despite better rains in September at times. And we really need to see an overall shift in this pattern. That's one of the main things I talk about in today's report. What does it take to undo the drought situation across the United States? Our current soil moisture values, which we've just been kind of trying to keep updated on these each morning, we can still see extremely dry conditions. And I'll be interested to see how much of this changes over the next week or so as two pretty powerful fronts try to roll through the midsection of the country. So here's what we expect. All right, this is the total precipitation through the next 7 days. So front number one tonight slices right through here, and then by tomorrow gets all the way over here. And then we're going to have another one on Sunday pushing right through this same area. Everything kind of gathers around a deeper trough that's between the Hudson Bay, the Great Lakes, and New England. And that's why we think parts of the Northeast will see the heaviest rainfall out of this. Unfortunately, because of the blocking pattern we still have in the Pacific, shoving this ridge over the west, the air coming through the central plains of the United States, the northern plains of the United States, will be very dry in addition to being cold, and that's why we continue to see very dry conditions showing up in the forecast. The risk there now is that we've got risk for high winds and also red flag warnings for Colorado, parts of Kansas, and Nebraska. And I was just looking at those winds later today. Let's take a look here. This is the forecast for, let's get into later on this afternoon. There we go. This afternoon, we're going to see that front very sharply defined here. Out ahead of it, stronger winds. Behind it, stronger winds. Then the front advances tonight into early tomorrow morning. And once again, we see the push of colder, drier air on the back side of this working its way through the plains here on Wednesday. So that is kind of the mainstay of this pattern here through the middle of this week. We're expecting strong northwesterly winds delivering some very dry air. So if we just take a look at what that might do in terms of severe weather, this map over here on the left shows you the risk of severe storms today. So from Kansas up into Wisconsin, and then tomorrow through the Ohio River Valley and the mid-Mississippi River Valley is where we're going to keep an eye on things. So let's go see that on the high-res NAM model. So this is this morning about 10 o'clock, and as we play forward, you can see the first round of precipitation as we talked about moving out of Missouri through Illinois into Indiana and Michigan. The main frontal boundary sits right here in the overnight hours, and that's the time frame I'm going to be watching most carefully after sunset along this boundary where we could see some stronger storms. You could get a post-frontal rain band behind this as well. So into tomorrow morning, playing out here at about 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, the scattered storms will be still lined up from Arkansas, Missouri through southern Illinois and Indiana. And this is all going to wrap up into a much deeper low that's spinning here over in parts of eastern Ontario and Quebec up toward the Hudson Bay. And that's why tomorrow night we're going to keep an eye on the Ohio River Valley down through the mid-Mississippi River Valley for the risk of those strong storms. Now look at the backside of this. There is the chance for some snow coming out of Manitoba and Ontario, possibly some snow showers in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and the UP of Michigan. Let's let the European model take over from there to give us that longer term view. So here we are, we're caught up on Thursday. And as we play through Friday, the front clears. A second low comes barreling out of the Canadian prairie right through here, and it develops another front. You'll see it, there it is, that by Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon is sitting right in this area. Each of these is going to be able to draw on a decent amount of Gulf moisture, but it's going to be limited in its northward progression. So you see the heavier rains really sitting right down here through early morning on next Monday. So that front clears out, and what you noticed is because the pattern is favoring a bigger ridge west and flow coming out of the northwest of the midsection of the country, this is just repeated shots at drier air. Now, if you watched last night's in-depth video, it's also linked in today's report. The thing I'm watching most carefully is this. You're out 10 days from now. This is October 21st. We have had a ridge over the west. Some of the newest forecast data suggest that that ridge is going to break down. See this? Out there on the 23rd and 24th. Now, if that occurs and the flow starts doing something like this, we're going to have more precipitation in the northwest. We're going to have more precip hitting Northern California, and this is going to light up several systems to roll through the midsection of the United States, or it has the potential to. Now, the ridging that you kind of see over parts of the southeast, this will help feed moisture into this. So my point here is to say that, we look out there and we see these open harvest windows still, and even as this rain comes through here, for example, we're going to get drier air behind it, opening the harvest back up. It just appears that once we get out there toward that end of October timeframe, really the end of the third week into the fourth week, that's when I think the pattern's really going to start to make that shift. I'm uncertain about this, but that's what I'm watching for. Even though the week 2 forecast looks drier across this broad area, understand that this is mostly biased to the beginning of the week 2 forecast. On the temperature side of this, we got warmth out ahead of this. This is all rain-cooled air here, but watch this warmth get replaced by the time we get into Wednesday and Thursday. The ridge in the west keeps the temps up, but the cooler air slides east by Friday. We get a temporary warm-up out ahead of the next shot at cold air, which starts on Saturday and runs through on Sunday into Monday. And that's going to bring in a pretty decent shot at some quite cold air, with highs here struggling to get out of the 40s in parts of Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Also even back farther to the west here in Iowa and Minnesota. And you can see that when you look out over the next 7 days, everywhere in gray is where we are expecting a frost event. You can also see the pattern change I was mentioning at the end of the month showing up in the temperature anomalies. So notice I got you out here to the beginning of the third week. And as we go forward, watch the west. See that warm anomaly? It starts to shift. See it fading? And that's the potential pattern change I want to be on the lookout for. That's the one that returns the moisture to the midsection of the country, potentially, and starts to make a more active pattern across the United States. Lastly, a couple things in today's report. Be sure to read it just to get another update on the new long-range outlook from the European from October 20th to November 20th. I have a discussion about what it takes to give us this. And we also take a close look at what's going on in South America, where we continue to see drought pressure in southern Brazil, Paraguay, Uruguay, and Argentina showing up. And in Argentina, the long-standing drought issues have really shown up in the GRACE data here, showing the root zone soil moisture values being so low. So this is a significant problem happening in Argentina right now. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that as we progress forward, and Brazil keeps planting ahead of their 5-year average pace. And I'll bring it all to you again tomorrow morning. I appreciate it. Thanks.